MLVC.
Excuse me, but I'm singing in one key and you're singing in another.
Poor is the man whose pleasures depend on the permission of another.
Open the door now and suffocate. Just give me a fan.
I don't trust any man who hasn't kissed another man.
I'm waiting.
All right, people, it's time to get your dancing shoes on. You're listening to MLVC. It's all Madonna, all the time.
Welcome to the party, bitches.
Hi, this is Jason Young, and you're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast. Your place for all things Madonna, Luis, Veronica, Ciccone.
Well, kids, it's Ben. Welcome back to the function.
And hey, everybody, it's Stefan. Thanks for joining us for another episode of MLVC. As you just heard today on the show, we are joined by dancer, choreographer, and director Jason Young. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys both for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, snaps, Ben. That's you can hear.
I'm trying to put it in the background.
Ben's silent snaps. I know. Jason, where are you calling in from today? You're in LA, right?
We're in LA, yeah. I'm calling in from a dance studio here in Los Angeles, North Hollywood.
Oh, nice. I was literally just got back. I spent a few days in Hermosa Beach.
Oh, really? Must have been a nice time.
It was quite nice, yeah. Everyone kept complaining how hot it was, and I thought, I don't know what they're talking about because the beach breeze is really nice.
It's so nice, yeah. I actually live close to the beach, so it's enjoyable.
Are you nice? Do you have to cross any picket lines in order to get to work?
No, not today, thank God. No, I've been pretty lucky with the traffic so far.
Excellent.
Nice. Ben, do you want to give the bio for Jason before we get to questions?
I absolutely can. All right, listeners. Jason Young has worked for over 25 years in the entertainment industry. He's done work for world tours, Broadway, television, and film. He creative directed and choreographed Ricky Martin's 2018 Latin Billboard's opening performance and also was the supervising choreographer for 3 of Madonna's world tours. He is now part of the team who lead 8-in-1 Creative with fellow Madonna dance alum Paul Kirkland. Now, addendum to that, we're going to give you Jason's Madonna danceography. So as a dancer, he was on Re-Invention and Confession, so 2004, 2006. As a dancer and choreographer, he was part of Sticky and Sweet. And then as a supervisor choreographer, he worked on MDNA, Rebel Heart, Living for Love at the Grammys. That was a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
The Brit Awards, which that one makes me sweat, and the Madam X Tour. And then he was assistant choreographer for the amazing Super Bowl halftime show.
Iconic.
So, yeah, there's... Oh, listen, I work in libraries, so we do our research.
Okay.
So to kick it off, we like to, there's sort of 2 parts of everybody's origin story when we talk to them on the podcast, Jason. And so first, let's start with your dance origin story. Tell us how dance came into your life and why it stayed.
I was really lucky at a young age. I had parents that were accepted everything. They tried to get you into everything possible to see what stuck. And I think a TV show was around at that time, Fame. And I was watching it constantly and I was dancing around the house constantly. And I think, breaking and popping were a thing back when I was growing up, and I started doing that. I ended up entering a dance competition and I was 7 years old, and my mom saw how much I really liked it. And there were some teachers who kind of, they were breakers and they were teaching, b-boying at a local dance studio. And my mom actually was she took me there to check it out, see if I wanted to get into classes, and made a deal with me that if I were going to take breaking lessons, that I needed to be in tap and jazz also. So
she wanted you to have a full, well-rounded education.
Exactly, yeah. So I got into that, and then 3 weeks after that, they stopped all the breaking classes, and my mom was like, "Oh well, you're going to stick with the jazz and tap." And so I just kept on doing that, eventually got into ballet, and just, I think through my teachers and through good, inspirational people. They like kept me moving through dance.
Wow. Gosh, you've got so many styles in your repertoire. That's impressive. Excellent. So the follow-up question then is, what is your Madonna origin story? What led you to the Reinvention tour?
Well, I mean, I think it started off with Jamie King, the artistic director. I did a show in Vegas because that's where I kind of like grew up. And I was doing shows in Vegas before I knew that I wanted to like dance for artists and move to LA and all of that. And there was a particular show called Storm at the Mandalay Bay that Jamie created the whole show. And then through that process and getting to know Jamie and his assistants, they were working on Madonna's tour at that time. And I was like, I was kind of interested in like kind of poking around, like what would it be like to be in a tour like that? And they were like, well, we should have known. We might have hired you. So after that, I was like, okay, maybe my next step is to go to LA and start working for artists and stuff. And I went to LA, and it took me like literally a year and a half before I actually started booking anything like big. I was like, doing small gigs, struggling here and there and all that. But finally, I walked into the room. It was like a new year. I shaved my head. I had a new look. And when I walked in, Jamie's assistant, Stephanie Bruce, looked at me and she was like, aha. And she was like, okay. And I think that with, the special skills of dance, like, cause I'm a tap dancer also. So they were looking for like, people who had standout styles for that tour for Reinvention. And so, through the 2 days of auditioning and like, doing the combos and like freestyling and all that, they decided that they were going to pick me.
Wow. I'm a big advocate of like buzzing the head to change your energy. So I totally get that one.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I think it had to do with my look, because I was here for a while and I was just like, just not hitting what I wanted, not getting the jobs that I wanted. And then after I shaved my head, things kind of like opened up doors for me.
That's interesting that you had a bit of a personal reinvention for yourself.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
And that is what landed you on the Reinvention tour.
No doubt.
So we've had a bunch of fellow Reinvention tour alum on the show. We had Reshma, we had obviously Paul, Tamara, we had on the show, we had Marlene, and they all said the same type of thing, which was, if you had a special dance ability, that's what sort of brought you on. So I was going to ask you, you've already answered that it was tap that sort of focused you in. Was it humiliating to sort of watch the auditions of some of the other people and be like, oh, wow, I don't have that special skill?
I mean, at that point, you just didn't know what they were looking for. You didn't know if it was like they were looking for one person with the special skill, but they were like just trying out different types of styles, or if they were going to bring on a group of people with all different special, So at that point, it was like we were just like kind of like looking at each other, not knowing what to expect. We know that we were all like battling it out in the audition for the choreography.
Right.
It came to like each person going in the room. Like at one point, they just started bringing us in by ourselves and keeping everyone else out. So it was like, just kind of fingers crossed, hoping that, we would get through to the next level.
At what point did you finally audition in front of Madonna?
I would say it was the second day. First day we went through her auditions. I think we learned like 3 different pieces of choreography, 3 different styles. And after they made their picks and made their callbacks, I think it was like the second day she came in and she started like, kind of weeding out who she kind of liked, who she didn't like, and all that. And I would say, we got picked on that day. So she actually handpicked everybody.
Well, she definitely must have took a liking to you because you stuck around for a couple tours. So,
Man, blessing. It was been a blessing for sure.
Talent knows talent. Like, we can just call it what it is. So, Jason, did you have any favorite numbers to perform on the Reinvention tour?
On the Reinvention tour,
You can remember that far
yeah,
back.
I was going to say travel back in time.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Die Another Day was one of my favorites.
So good.
Partnering, doing a tango. That's one thing about her tours that are great also, is that you get to learn new skills. You know, I've never tangoed before. So to have an, authentic tango choreographer come in and like really work with us on like, the technique of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
You mean you've never tangoed with 4 other people at the same time?
I know, right? I know the things that they create. But that one, and then of course Hollywood, our standout moment, where I get to I got to freestyle and like do my own kind of. Well, I got to do what I wanted to do in that number, which was great. And then I really enjoyed when we did color guard. So it was like rifles and all of that stuff. That was another skill that we enjoyed like learning a lot.
That was Express Yourself, right?
Express Yourself. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I happen to like you in the wig during Vogue. I thought,
Hey, I mean,
you and Paul rocking those.
I'm not
wigs.
mad about. There was so many numbers in that show that like I really enjoyed doing. Coming from the ceiling in Vogue was a great moment too.
Oh, you were one of the people coming from. See, when I saw that tour, because that was like the first number, we were all just focused center stage, right? And like, she's here. Like,
other things are happening.
There's so many things happening. Like,
I was.
You have to see the show like 5 times to catch everything, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, I totally forgot that people came down.
Totally,
oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
on that, when did you go up there? When were you cued to go up?
During the last song before the opening.
Okay, so like the pre-show music, the warm up.
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm. While everybody's like still out there waiting for the show to start, we go out, we clip in, they take us up, and we get to like kind of see through the lighting, through all of the lights and all of that. We could see all the audience out there, like, having a good time, getting ready to have a show. And then as soon as the sound and the lights go, the crowd would erupt. So it's a good feeling.
The wall of sound that just goes in that direction. Oh my gosh. It's so crazy. Amazing. Oh, wow. So you sat up there all through The Beast Within, because that was a long intro on that tour.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We were up in there. I mean, thank God they were like little swings. So they were like, it was like a little seat, for us. So that wasn't too bad. But yeah, we definitely were in the heat.
Yeah, but you didn't have any safety wires, right? You were just
no. Yeah, there was a safety clip that would connect. We had a harness, so we had to do Vogue the whole number with a harness on.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow! You got to suffer for the art.
Exactly. You know it.
Wow. So in the tour movie, I'm going to tell you a secret. Fans got to see a bit of the gruel and scope of travel on a tour like Reinvention, which is not something that music documentaries or films usually show any of. So what was your perspective on that? Since you said this was one of your first sort of big scope projects like that, what was that like to suddenly be like, oh, we're taking jets and buses and we're traveling the country and the world?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a great experience. I'm like, I'm a bit of a gypsy. I love to travel. I love to experience different places, not stay in one place for too long if possible, So the level of what they were doing blew my mind, getting on tour buses and having like in London, the double-decker buses where you can go upstairs and, all of these like, things that they were like giving us to experience was great. It was great. Obviously a little strenuous at times, from doing a show and like having to get on the bus and travel 18 hours to the next city. Sometimes that can be a little strenuous, and then get there and you have like a few hours before you have a sound check or whatever. But I mean, it's all in the tour life, right?
Yeah. And how was it seeing yourself on the big screen in I'm Going to Tell You a Secret? Because we have to tell you that fans love the camaraderie of the dancers on that tour as portrayed in the film. And just sort of the energy of the group. And as somebody who got to go backstage, because I had won a trip from MTV to be in the pit on the opening night of Madison Square Garden for Re-Invention.
Awesome.
So we went backstage and we were the big fuzzy carpet that's shown in the documentary. We actually got to sit on it.
Okay, yeah.
But like early, well before the show started. But like that group. So how was that seeing yourself and your sort of your comrades in dance portrayed in a movie like that?
It was good. Because I mean, they actually like didn't ask us to like be something that we weren't. They wanted to actually, they spent time with us. Like I think each dancer got like a full day where the camera crew followed them around. And like came to our house and like start, So I mean, it was really nice to like to know that she wanted us to not just be a background. Like she considers us a part of like the full on production show.
Sure.
And that we are talent also.
Right. You weren't a prop.
Yeah, exactly. We're not just props. Like, our experience matters also.
Oh, so, yeah. And it came through in the show and the movie. Like the Hollywood number that you mentioned earlier was to see that up close in the stage and you guys are performing around us was just once in a lifetime. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Before we get into some of your other experiences with Madonna, after you worked on Reinvention, how did that first experience change you as a performer? Did it improve your skills? Did it improve your outlook on performing?
Definitely. I think, I would say being with Jamie and their whole, like his whole crew, and working with everybody, it kind of like opened my eyes to like, because I'm sitting there and I'm like studying him, because obviously at that point I'm already thinking that, that is the direction that I want to move into. After I'm done with my performance and dancing, I want to go into creative directing and all of that stuff. So I like, at that point I'm like just studying them and like observing like what kind of like tools that they have possess and are putting out there that is making this show so successful. And I think one of the things that like I grasped onto is he was great at like utilizing different types of talent. From different walks of life, different styles of dance. Not everybody necessarily came from a professional background, but we were all put in the same room to achieve something that magnificent, something great. And the process at times can be a little more grueling. It could be, to try to get it to that, like everybody on the same page. But once it gets there, it's pretty amazing. So I think like learning that from them as a director, using different, people to get what you want. And also like, through that whole show, I learned how to deal with people better. I think that I was a little, as a person, I just was a little more demanding on the people that I worked with, that worked underneath me. And I just had to realize that how to communicate to people better. For sure. And then I would say also just being able to bring in and learn different skills.
Sure.
On every tour that we've done with Madonna, I've learned something brand new that I didn't have before. So leaving that tour, I had another skill that I could utilize in whatever show, whatever aspect, and like, so I definitely, every time I leave her show, I feel like I leave a better person.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of those skills that you acquired on your second tour with Madonna, which was Confessions, was how to be an equestrian horse. You were specifically ridden by Madonna during the opening song Future Lovers. How did Confessions come to you so that way you would be ridden by Madonna?
The tour?
Yes.
The tour, that one was I guess she had already been doing her promo tour with a few of the dancers that were on tour with the Confessions and from Re-Invention before. And when it came to casting the tour, they decided not to have an audition. So she decided just to kind of cast the people within whoever she had and whoever she could call back. And I got lucky enough for them to kind of see me within that cast. So I just got a direct phone call.
Nice. Hey, that's the best way to go, right?
It's the best way.
Skip that audition. Just, hey, when Madonna calls,
Yeah, exactly.
Especially that tour. It has some great choreography. Oh my gosh. Oh.
It does.
So Confessions, as you may or may not know, is like hailed in Madonna fandom as like one of the best things she's ever done in her entire career. And we personally love it here at MLVC. Other than Future Lovers, I think one of the highlights for me with you on that show was Erotica / You Thrill Me. So first question I have to ask you about that. Did you know when you were doing that number how special that was to the fans? Because before that show, we had never heard that song before. She had obviously done the album version of Erotica in public, but that was like a demo version that she had never put out. So when she, and this was before the advent of like legit cell phones being able to record proper audio and whatnot. So I remember the first time I saw Confessions tour, that was the first time I was ever hearing that number, and I didn't know what it was or where it was coming from. And then on top of that, it's so beautifully choreographed. The staging of that number was absolutely perfect for that. So did you know how special that was when you were performing it? I would say not throughout the rehearsal process. And when we first started performing it, I didn't know the effect that it was going to have on people. But then I think like mid-tour, I started the messages that I would start to receive from people and the reaction from the crowd, like you could tell that was a special number for sure. So my follow-up question on this number is, I've heard that Madonna does not like to be lifted in her performing, that people lifting her up in the air is not something she likes. So I was always curious that she was being lifted up in that number by you. Did you feel honored that you were one of the people who got to lift Madonna during that number?
Definitely extremely honored. I mean, the fact that she trusts me, not once, but, a few times to partner her and support her. I mean, that definitely, it gives you a good feeling to know that an artist like trusts you that much to like that she wants you to be the one to like make sure that she's okay.
And then last on Erotica, You Thrill Me, and then I promise we'll move on.
Oh, good.
Tell me what like the rehearsal process was like for that number, just because I just felt it was so special in terms of like how people kept coming on and coming on and coming on throughout, like it's sort of the group of dancers kept expanding and growing and and ultimately this is sort of a question for all numbers in a tour, but what is the rehearsal process like for a number? like does she come to you and it's like, here's the number, and then you just learn it, or like walk us through that?
No, I mean, RJ Durrell, who choreographed the number, he did a great job at it. I think the process is mostly they talk about what the creative is with the director, right? Jamie King. Him and Madonna kind of go through the process of what that each song is going to be. And then that information is relayed to each choreographer, which normally they get like a few days to kind of create the number. M comes in, looks at things and like gives her notes throughout until she feels like it's ready. And then once it's ready, then she'll start to learn the number.
Gotcha.
But it takes a few days, some choreographers come in and they have like a game plan right off the beginning, and they, come in and knock the number out. And then some just it takes a bit of a process where like they come in, it's not completely right yet. So, they have to go back, take some notes, go back, make some fixes, show it again,
A little bit of workshop.
A little bit of a workshop. Yeah, for sure.
And so before Madonna comes into the mix, who are you using as Madonna's stand-in? Is there like just one of the other girl dancers that are on the cast, like filling in?
No, every tour has a stand-in person who's normally the supervising choreographer, or one of them. For instance, on the Confessions tour, Stephanie Roos was the supervising choreographer. So she would do majority of the stand-in work. But for that number particularly, we had RJ Durrell had brought in an assistant at that time. Her name is Allison Falk.
Uh-huh.
And Allison was a supervising choreographer on another tour with me, with Madonna. And she stood in for that number while we were learning it.
Nice.
Very cool.
Well, and then I also just want to say you did a bang up job in Sorry. I thought I always loved Sorry because, and when we had Tamara and Rushma on the show, who I always felt bad that Rushma was just she never got to see the stage. She was just sort of there as like a backup. But Rushma was always cracking me up because like the girls are so underutilized for half the tour in Confessions. Like they must have just been sitting back there just waiting to come on because like it's like so guy heavy for the majority of the show, which is why I was always happy when Sorry finally comes on because it's like, oh look, the girls are here finally.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're like, then like they're taking out all their aggression on you,
Totally. I get my butt kicked in that one. Man.
Yeah,
okay,
but it was
but
good.
That said, we got that Ray of Light performance. Like, come on, that choreography was insane when the guys come to the forward of the stage. Oh my gosh, so good. So good. All right. So to wrap up Confessions, what were like your top two favorite numbers to perform in that show?
Confessions. You know what? A fun one for me was music, the roller skating.
Oh yeah.
That one was a lot of fun. Obviously, Erotica was a great moment to do. I had a lot of fun doing the locking number. That was music. Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, I thought you meant the no. What was the Isaac? Right? Wasn't it Isaac where you were locking your arms around? And I
remember. Forbidden Love.
Forbidden Love.
Yeah. At first, I'll be honest. At first, when we first started doing that number, I wasn't understanding the concept of what it should have been. But I think that number grew with me a lot throughout the whole process. I really ended up enjoying doing that number a lot.
Was that just like really complicated for you to learn? Because I remember watching that. I'm like, how are they even understanding how to move their arms around each other?
Yeah, it was patterns, and it was like at first the patterns were getting confusing because, sometimes it moves similar, and we were changing them and making it this way and making it that way. So, eventually, like, after a while, it was like, okay, which one are we doing, It would get a little confusing, but once it got like finalized and we really locked it in, it just the flow of it just happened naturally. You
got the muscle memory or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one arm that would just keep on going, and the rest of your body would just have to like try to remain as still as possible.
Yeah. So it always just looked like a Rubik's Cube to me. Like some people know how to do a Rubik's Cube. I can never solve a Rubik's Cube. And I was like, that's what that arm movement thing reminds me of.
Totally, yeah.
I liked it because it was genre free, right? Like it had some street elements, but then it was like very contemporary performance art, especially when she comes and is in the middle and it becomes like this. Oh, it's just so cool.
Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so moving on from that, next was Sticky and Sweet, which is the tour that saw you join as both a dancer, hello Candy Shop and Vogue, and a choreographer. So tell us about making that leap and addition in your responsibilities and what that meant for you personally and for your work on the tour.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Sticky and Sweet, at that point, I was already a dance captain for the tour. And each choreographer that would come in, some choreographers, there's a bit of a process, like I said, of like taking their information and like, making sure that it's like, that it makes sense for everyone, and I think that I played a part in that field of like helping some of the choreographers, like, just take their information and like give it to the rest of the dancers and make sure that they understood what we were trying to achieve, And then there was a couple of numbers that I just helped assisted on and stuff like that. So they kind of gave me more of a responsibility role as a choreographer.
Well, I mean, I'm sure by that point you are so involved in how Madonna runs her shows that for you as a senior member of her cast, you can probably translate much easier to people you have a shorthand that maybe newer people might not have.
Exactly. Yeah. We know the process. We know how fast we got to get it done. So, it's kind of like just helping people along with, making sure that it's the way that she's going to work.
Right. Here's the expectations, right? It's like you don't, instead of having to wait for them to learn it themselves, you can just be like, look, it's going to be X, Y, and Z. She's going to want this, and this. And so we're going to need you to do A, B, and C, and we're going to need you to do ASAP. So. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that kind of like with Stephanie Roos, because obviously she was the supervising choreographer on that one. She kind of showed me the ropes of being a supervising choreographer, and what the kind of, expectations are and what, how much we have to help the other choreographers in this process because it's very demanding, and it doesn't give everybody the time that they expect to create their numbers,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everything's in a crunch time and we just got to get the best from them possible in that time.
Wow, very interesting. So sort of a different question from what we'd asked about the previous tours, because Sticky and Sweet turned into a massive affair with dates all over the world compared to the last couple of tours. And for the first time ever, she had a second leg in the summer of 2009, which she had not done before. Right. What was that like from a creative and physical perspective to both sustain that for that period of time and to perform that much on that many shows?
I mean, performing for us, I don't think it's a big deal. I think the more performances, the better for us. We love getting in front of a crowd, and we love especially the energy that we get from her types of crowds. It's like, it's something that you never want to stop. You never want to get off of that train. You want to keep it rolling, But I would say on a creative aspect, like taking that pause, it was good for us. It was really good. Everybody take a rest and regroup. I think as a group, as a whole production, everybody felt really close and really tight. And we really had a lot of love for each other on that tour. So to hear that she was thinking about bringing us back for another leg, that was I think everybody was just overjoyed because at that point we were oh yeah, we get to be around each other for even longer. And, of course, making money is always a good thing, So, keeping us employed for a few more months is doesn't hurt at all. So then coming back, she was cool because instead of just doing the same show that we had been doing, she decided to, kind of tweak certain numbers and bring new numbers in. So we had a bit of a rehearsal process again. And so it was almost like giving us a burst of new energy,
So I'm glad you brought that up because I was so envious that all the other countries on the second leg got to see that Frozen remix. We in America did not get to, so I've only been able to see it on video. Thank God for the internet. But what was the process for that like? Was it was that song, the actual instrumentation of that song, was that already decided when it came to you? So it was like, here's the song, and then you worked it out, or what was do you remember what the process?
Yeah, for the dancers, for the most part, like I think on that tour, Kevin Antunes was the musical director, so I'm pretty sure that him and M, and I don't know if it was Jamie or who else was involved, but kind of worked through majority of the music, and then when it was given to us, I think Rich and Tone were. They were the choreographers for that number. I'm sure they have input, on certain parts of the song, but for the majority of it, it was like it was done when it was to us.
Yeah, it was such a great version. I forever loved that version. She was dancing her ass off. Like
she danced so much in that tour.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane how athletic she was. I'm like not her age that she was in that tour, and I don't think I could do half of it.
I am her age. She was on that tour, and I couldn't do any of it.
I couldn't do it, right? Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah, I need her vitamin regimen,
Exactly. I mean, that's one thing I always said about M is that she's superhuman in that sense, She makes all of her dancers pull up and step up their game when they're dancing with her.
Well, I assume you would want to anyway. If you're working for somebody who's performing that tough, it's like you're not she's not just standing there while you're dancing around her. Like she's dancing around with you.
Exactly. Yeah. I think as a dancer, artist, you want to get to an artist who does that, who performs like that, and when you finally get there, you're like, holy shit, I gotta every number, I gotta stick with it. I gotta keep my game up. So it's good, keeps you on your toes.
I bet, yeah.
So after Sticky and Sweet, you decided to not perform with Madonna any longer, but you were just supervising choreography on several tours, performances, and projects. Tell us about that transition. What was that like?
The transition was good. I don't know what they expected on their end, but on my end, I think it was great. I had already done the role a couple of times with a couple of other tours, so I gained experience and confidence coming into that, with her. And then on that first tour with her, I also had somebody that I was working with, Allison Folk, who was supervising choreographer with me, who so we kind of backed each other up on that tour. And from there, it just, after doing that, I think that was the MDNA tour. After doing that tour, just kind of definitely solidified that I knew, what the role called for, and I knew how to, supply what they needed. So, just made me feel good, made me feel confident, and they all felt secure with having me around, and they would bring me back. So that just definitely kind of nails.
Did you enjoy the experience more or less now that you weren't a dancer in the show?
I would say it's different. It's completely different, right? On a creative side, way more, obviously, because I'm a part of the creative. I'm getting to help with the decisions that are being made for each number, for the production, making sure that things are done correctly for her, and then, taking her notes, talking directly with her, and kind of, communicating with, the rest of the cast from there. But if we're talking about just fun, it's funner to be a dancer because I don't want to say all you have to do is learn the choreography and perform, but for the, you don't get the stress of management or anybody wanting things to get done and dealt with a certain way,
right.
you just have to make sure that you're showing up on time and that you perform the way you're supposed to perform, and you get to travel the world and have a good time.
So a question, and maybe other people know this, maybe some people don't know this. As a supervising choreographer, are you traveling around with her, or are you sort of like you're there for the pre-show and then once the show goes on tour, you're done?
No, on Madonna's shows, you travel the whole tour with them.
And what are you sort of contributing while the tour is up and running? Because, you know,
we kind of oversee the whole production. While it's going on, it's our job to watch the show every night, to take notes on everything that has gone wrong through the performance, so that we can address everything for the next performance.
So if one of the dancers had a late night or too late a night out at you're like, you got to lay off the booze today.
Exactly. You were marking yesterday, or your moves weren't completely on time. So all of the dance moves, we give them all notes. We have note sessions before we give them all their dance notes. We also, if there's like things that didn't happen, like creatively, like with the video screens, if something was wrong, or lighting, something went wrong, or anything that goes wrong, we have to go to each person, head of their department, and kind of go through those notes with them to make sure that everything gets fixed for next time.
So it's like an ongoing workshop sort of feeling.
Keep it tight. You know, that's one thing she wants. You know what I'm saying? Like she wants her show to be the way she created it every single time. You know, she expects what she says yes to happen every show. So if there's one little thing that, you know, goes wrong and no one catches it, then that's a problem, right? She wants to make sure that someone has seen it, that someone's addressing it, that the next show, the people are going to see what she expects them to see. You know?
However, that rule is suspended until the very last show, because as Paul Kirkland let us in on a little secret, is y'all like to have fun with her on the last show of the tour. I'm mostly thinking about Sticky and Sweet, when suddenly the robes were falling off and y'all were in your underwear.
Yeah. We used to play pranks a little bit on the last show. But you know what? That's kind of, I think that was a generational thing, you know? I mean, that has kind of stopped, you know? I don't think people, and maybe they do, and maybe we don't see it as much, you know? But on the last few tours that I've been on, the last show is the same as the rest of the shows, you know?
Interesting.
But yeah, we definitely would, you know, have a little fun on one show. You know, you got to change it up a little bit.
Do you remember what might have happened on Confessions?
I know exactly what happened.
And he's not telling you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, I remember especially for instance, for Re-Invention on Papa Don't Preach.
I think Paul told us that it's like the guys showed up instead of the girls. We
showed up instead of the girls, yes. And, you know, she has this whole thing where she does this circle thing, and she looked at us and she was like, what are you guys doing in my circle? You know, so moments, you know, it's moments. But we had to learn all of the choreography to make sure that we did everything exactly right, you know? So it's not just playing a joke just to play a joke. It's like, you know, trying to make it that it doesn't affect the audience too much, you know?
When would you find the time to learn the choreography?
Oh, we got all day. We got sound checks, you know, while we're waiting around, you know, before the show and all of that. So, you know, me and Paul just, we learn pretty fast. So
a question on that. So I noticed there's always, you see it at the European shows because the audience gets to come in early because the stadiums open up. America never allows people inside, so you don't really get to see it. She's always rehearsing numbers, like different numbers before the show. Is there a method to how they rehearse that? Are they basically rehearsing every number of the show on different nights throughout the week, or is it a specific show that they're rehearsing a specific number, or what's the rhyme and the reason for that?
I think M has like a sound check for anyone, right? They have their specific songs that they like to sound check for sure.
Okay.
But then there are certain numbers that were like, didn't go so well the night before, or, certain things that we want to just go through to make sure that everything is going right, make her feel good or make the dancers feel good about it. So we'll just pick certain songs on each sound check to just kind of review and to make sure that everything's cool.
Okay. Yeah, because I wasn't sure, because once the tour starts, you're not really rehearsing the numbers after that, right?
No,
it's just the runaway train.
Yeah, exactly. And like if something goes like really horribly wrong, then obviously before sound check, we'll schedule a little bit of a rehearsal to review that number, to make sure that everything is tight for that night.
Gotcha.
So to wrap up on this conversation and sort of that era of your time as the supervising choreographer, what would you say were like 3 performances from any of those tours? MDNA, Rebel Heart, Madam, blah, blah, blah. Like, what were 3 pieces that you really had a hand in and helped put together that you would be like, yeah, I'm proud of that?
Okay. So I would say for sure, and this is out of the, a little strange, but the Bone Breakers.
Oh, that was so rough to watch.
But good, but so good.
That was on the MDNA tour.
Yeah.
And they had their little interlude where it was just them.
Mm-hmm.
I helped them like really form their number and really create that number for them. So that was a good one for me that I enjoyed doing.
That was to Best Friend, right?
Friend,
the song. Yeah.
Yes.
I just remember they were right in front of me where my seats were, and I dislocated my shoulder back in high school. And so watching them do all that, I was like, oh, I could feel this. It was rough.
I know. I'm like, it's tough to watch sometimes, the things that you can do. I'm like, are you, I have to ask them, are you guys okay? Like,
No.
How long are you guys going to be able to do this?
Yeah. How about Rebel Heart or Madam X?
Rebel Heart, off the top of my head, Rebel Heart. One of my favorite numbers, which was created by Matt and Megan, was Bang Bang, the hotel room, which I got to really do the fighting between her and one of the other dancers.
Mm-hmm.
I choreographed the fight scene for
that. That was MDNA though.
Sorry. Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
MDNA. See, I'm starting to get them mixed
they
up.
all it's one Madonna tour. It's just all one long Madonna tour for you.
It's the time that I danced and then the time that
yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, look, there's so many of them that it's hard to like pinpoint just one,
Was it difficult for working on Madam X because the scale was shrunk down so much?
For me, Madam X, I actually didn't get to work on the creation of the show.
I see.
So I was brought out to kind of oversee during the tour, just to kind of oversee, give notes, and kind of like make sure that it stayed, at the level that she wants it. But for the creation time, I wasn't a part of that.
So you were just project managing.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Well, fans are going to stand for that performance at the Grammys. That was fantastic. Oh my gosh.
Grammy performance was a good one.
That was amazing.
Yes.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a Grammys watching party and a bunch of people came over, and it was including people who were not Madonna fans at all. And they all were just like, holy crap. And I'm like, yeah, you get it now, right? Like,
you get it.
Like in that 5-minute time slot, you understand what I'm always going on about. And yeah, a great distillation of all the things that are just there that are there. So yeah.
Well, can we talk about the Super Bowl real quick?
Sure.
What was your involvement in working on the Super Bowl?
I was an assistant choreographer on that one. That's when I was just coming in with their camp to start doing the supervising choreography and all of that. That was the first thing that they kind of brought me on for.
So that's a small little thing, nothing too heavy.
I mean, they needed a lot of hands, and they needed people who they could trust, that know her, that like she's comfortable with, so being brought in, and then, also like standing in for all of the special guest artists that she brought on, right?
Sure.
CeeLo
and
LMFAO. I was CeeLo's stand-in, and I was LMFAO's stand-in, you know what I'm saying? She was like rehearsing on my shoulders, doing the DJ moment, like all of those things,
That's fun. Wow.
Yeah, going through that whole thing, creating, bringing in the right people to create certain numbers.
Personally, I would have rather had you been the person during the LMFAO as opposed to LMFAO, but
now Stefan. Okay, enough about Madonna. We want to talk about you. Sure, this is a Madonna related podcast, but eagle-eyed fans have spotted you over the years in many other places. There's a very popular Britney Spears video you danced in once. I love that song. You've worked with Ricky Martin, you teach classes, et cetera, et cetera. So what would you say are your top 3 non-Madonna collaborations that you've done in your career?
Top 3. I mean, obviously Ricky. Ricky has been a big thing for us. He's been very consistent with us. I started working with Ricky in 2006 as a dancer, and then moved into, again, I think he was the actual first tour. His Moss tour was the first tour that I actually was supervising choreographer. So like I would say Ricky has been a huge thing for us. Also letting us artistic direct some things for him has been great. And then, for me, Britney, doing her Femme Fatale tour was a big thing. I was a supervising choreographer for that one also. So the Femme Fatale was, to me, one of her best tours. I love that tour, that, and I mean, Madonna has been my top one, that she's always kept me going and always kept me around. So it feels good to have good artists that like are very creative, still keeping you, working and keeping you coming back for more.
Hells yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So following up on creativity, tell us more about 8 and 1 Creative. We know about it, and listeners know about it from our interview with Paul, and sort of the multifaceted approach that 8 and 1 takes with their projects, sort of a one-stop creative shop. So tell us a little bit more, like your perspective on it and what you enjoy most about the company and the projects and what you do.
I would say, having a place where there's 3 of us that like kind of like run this company, so having a place where we have collaboration, a place for creativity. We like to, market ourselves more as a creative direction company. But obviously we do a lot of choreography, so we're just more of a hands-on approach, with a lot of, outside collaboration from different artists to help us like with the production side, with the, we have like production teams to come in and to direct music videos. So I think, we try to put our hand in, all different forms of production. We like to do live shows, obviously. But we also like to do music videos and, TV performances and all of that. So I think it's just more about like the collaboration and the community of people that we have, that we can work with so that we can bring in our own team.
Oh, that's wonderful. So any big projects that you can talk about? I saw that Carrie Underwood's show is coming back. More dates this year in Vegas. I have a couple of colleagues who actually went to see that show and loved it.
Great.
So I was like, oh, okay. I did. They came back from Vegas and were like, oh my God. I was like, oh, what'd you see? Yeah, did you see like Cirque du Soleil and stuff? They were like, no, our favorite thing was seeing Carrie Underwood. I was like, say what? And then as we were doing research for the show, I was like, oh wait, that was 8-1 Creative, Paul and Jason's group. Like, whoa, like that's crazy. So any big projects you can actually talk about.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we just got done doing Carrie Underwood, brought her back. She's got her residency still going in Vegas. And we're actually rehearsing right now, putting together another tour for a group called Rebelde. They're huge in Mexico. They started off as TV stars, which formed a group, and I think they were most popular in like the early 2000s. But now they're coming back for a reunion tour, and it's going to be a huge tour. So just working on adding dancers in and creating their performances now.
Nice.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Well, I'm sure they must appreciate the wealth of information that you can bring with all of your legendary tours that you've been on. I mean, I'm sure it's like coming to people like you and to Paul, it must just be like the fact that they can pick your brains about, everything that you've done is, I'm sure, they better appreciate it.
Well, we thank you. We appreciate it though.
All right, Jason, it's time for a little segment we like to call the lightning round. These answers are just meant to be quick off the top of your head, wherever you're at in your Madonna journey today. Don't think too hard. Favorite Madonna song?
I would say one of my favorites, La Isla.
Okay. Favorite Madonna music video?
4 minutes.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. Favorite Madonna tour, and it does not have to be one that you danced on, but I'm sure it is.
That's so hard. I would say one of my favorites were probably Confessions.
Yeah, that would be my vote.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Also,
you were a horse. I mean, the Sorry Cage Off, Erotica, You Thrill Me. I mean, there's just so many highlights.
There's so many moments, right? Yeah. I mean, it was a good time to dance too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how abreast you are in Madonna movies, but do you have a favorite Madonna movie?
Who's that girl?
Ah, yes.
Wow.
Good answer.
Yeah, I loved her back then.
Oh, so it's so good. It's favorite Madonna look, and this can be from a video, a tour, a photo shoot, in person.
I mean, I don't know. I always loved her old school, like her 80s look. That
it's
classic good. Madonna. That's what I grew up on.
Yeah. Material Girl.
Yeah,
Borderline, like all those. Yeah,
yes.
It's iconic.
The bangles and the tights. Yeah,
man.
It's amazing that she has.
I grew up in the '80s, and I was mesmerized by her.
Well, everyone, that's our show for today. Jason, tell everyone where they can find you online and on social.
You can find me at j.youngcreative on social, and you can always connect with us at 8and1creative.com.
Nice. And remember, everybody, you can find us on Instagram and Threads at MLVC Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at MLVC Podcast if you haven't already. Never miss a video. If you'd like to donate to the show, we're on Venmo at MLVC Podcast, or think about becoming a subscriber, patreon.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast. Jason Young, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been amazing. I mean, I could ask you 50 other questions about Erotica, You Thrill Me, but I know you have a job.
We're not going to let you ask.
Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it.